just for the listeners and for the viewers, I want to talk about this for a second. I want to talk about the specs. So just to confirm, so we have the We Are Rewind. When did this like launch officially? I know you started with a Kickstarter. When did this start shipping to everyone?
Oh, I would say maybe 2 years and a half ago.
Okay,
Yeah, it's about that. Maybe 2 years and almost
that
three
sounds
years
right.
ago, but it was really really delayed and delayed again. There are so many
Yeah.
issues.
Did the pandemic, did COVID affect?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, pandemic was terrible for us, and actually we had to change of manufacturer a few times and of
Oh,
engineering team also. So it was a big problem, and production was delayed for more than a year. Actually, more than a year and a half. It
wow.
was crazy. So many people in the backers were like, "Okay, where is my product now? It's
Yeah.
been so long," and they are trying to get a refund. So it was a crazy time at this moment.
Yeah, and I think because the people, when you see a product on Kickstarter, it gets you really excited with all the features, but there's been a lot of products that never launched. And so I think people get really scared that they're going to lose their money.
Oh, okay. I was not familiar at the time with Kickstarter, so
Right.
I
Yeah.
believe you surely.
Well, but I mean, congratulations because you ship the product and there's a lot of beautiful products that are just ideas and they don't actually get into people's hands. So you ship the product.
Yeah, we did it.
The features that I first heard about 3 or 4 years ago, because I was a big fan of cassettes. I still am a big fan of cassettes, old cassettes and new cassettes. And the features that I really loved about this piece is the Bluetooth. That's really cool. But I think the biggest thing was the lithium ion battery, like and you have USB-C charger. And so that was a big deal because we all remember putting AA batteries and then you only listen to one side of the tape and then you have to put in new batteries.
Yeah. It was something really important for us to implement the battery, but actually the function with which we struggled a lot was actually the Bluetooth. We chose an aluminum casing,
Yeah.
and so it was acted like a Faraday cage, something like
Oh,
this, and
yes,
it
yes.
closed so many interferences, and so it was the biggest challenge was about the Bluetooth. Actually, it's not the the battery, but also the fact that we have a bulky design. It was also complicated. We tried to get a smaller battery to make it, put it inside and don't have something which was too big and that you couldn't hold anywhere. So it was not exactly what we wanted in the first place. The cassette player was supposed to be smaller.
I see. I like the size. I don't have an issue with the size. Did you ever consider getting rid of Bluetooth?
I actually sent a question to the backers of Kickstarter back in the days, and I had like maybe 60% of the people who said, "Okay, if you give up the Bluetooth function, I want to get a refund." So I decided, okay, no, it seems to be very important for so many of them, so we should keep it.
Yes. Yeah. Good for you. And so the Bluetooth is interesting because I took this on a walk a couple times with my AirPods, and it's tricky because without a screen to select what device you want to connect to, that's really difficult, but it did it pretty well.
Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear it because actually we mentioned in the specs of the product that it's not supposed to be compatible with earbuds because
Okay.
it's yeah the range of the signal Bluetooth in the cassette player is not so big because otherwise it would cause much more interferences. So sometimes it struggles to get pairing with the earbuds. So I'm glad that it worked with your
Yeah.
earpods. Yeah.
Yes. The Apple ones.
Apple AirPods. Okay.
And I had it in my pocket and it worked really well and it was cool. I think one of the tricks is it helps to be away from your iPhone because these want to connect automatically to your Apple device. So
Yeah,
I feel like it's easier if you have your iPhone further away so that it knows to connect to this.
definitely. It's one of the it's in the user manual actually. We
Okay.
mentioned when you are making the first pairing, we suggest that you shut off all the other Bluetooth devices in the same room to help for
Yes.
the first connect. And once it has been connected for the first time, the coming pairings will be easier.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When it's memorized, it's easier.
And that's more of a criticism of Apple because these connect too easy to other things. If my kids are using an iPad, and I'm listening to music on my phone and I walk by their iPad, it'll connect to their iPad. So
Okay.
these connect a little bit too easy to devices. But anyway,
Okay.
are most people using it then with a Bluetooth speaker? I see.
I won't. I honestly, I don't know. Some like all generations, maybe like 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, prefer to use it with the lining, with the wire connection.
Yes.
And
Okay.
others are just mostly using it in the living room, just
Okay.
connecting it to their speaker. And some others are just taking it somewhere and put it in the bag and use it. So I honestly, I don't have the numbers for that. I cannot tell you exactly.
You know what? I would say for me, I would use it. I would try the Bluetooth, but then I would probably park it in my living room and use the auxiliary headphone and plug it in because it's more reliable. And
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
can you tell me the history? How far, if this shipped 2.5 years ago, around 2022 or 2021, how far back do we have to go to get the original idea for this?
It was just before the pandemic, and it was just after discussion that I had with my partner, with Mathieu, and he was unemployed at this moment, and I used to work in advertising. I was a copywriter, and I was kind of fed up with this job, and he mentioned the fact that maybe we could start a project together, and I told him, okay, I just see if there is something that I could find. And we were both big fans of music. All our friends are in the music industry in Paris. And so I read articles about music and I wanted something about both music. And I knew that there is something about the nostalgia at this moment. There are so many people with, the 90s bags. I don't know the name. It's in France, it's a banana. That's, these are small bags with bells.
Oh, yes. Fanny
You know,
pack.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
used to make a big comeback, and so I saw also there was some roller skates,
Yep.
which were like in the old days. So I read something about that, and there was an article about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's just came into my mind. I was like, okay, so apparently, thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, cassettes are popular again, and
Yeah.
also, of course, the Peter Quill cassette players. And I was just like, okay, so how people are going to listen to their tapes now again? And actually, they had only two options. There was the really good cassette players, such as the Sony TPSM2 from the movie, which was about 800 euros. Now you can
Wow.
find it for 1,000, maybe
Wow.
sometimes 1,200 euros, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And the other option was just really first range cassette players made of plastic that you could find on Amazon.
Yeah.
And so there was no in between. And this is how it started.
Do you have a history with tapes? Did you listen to them as a kid?
I didn't listen very long, but I remember that I borrowed my older brother tapes. He's a musician and he was making a lot of mixtapes, and he also was recording himself with some friends and with some bands he used to have. And yes, I used to listen his tapes, and with his old Sony Walkman, or maybe he had a Naiwa, something like this. And I listened to these tapes, and after that, my parents, I found a tape of my parents, which was Starmania, the musical Starmania,
Okay.
which was French one, which is really famous. And this is so great. You should listen and see it because it is so great. And yes, I was listening to this tape again and again and again. But it's because actually I had no choice. My mother didn't want it to buy me a CD player at the time. She said, someone is going to steal it from you and I'm not going to buy one. So just stick with your cassettes now and we'll see that when you get older.
That's funny. That's funny. Why was it important, going back to the features, why was it important to have the recording feature on it?
Oh, definitely for the romanticism of that. You know, I'm a big fan of Friends, the TV show, and I remember the scene with Monica and Chandler, and he was, making a mixtape for her. The first place is the good one, but after one, he makes a real one. But yeah, I remember the fact that it was, this is so romantic. You can offer a mixtape, and it was a way also to get something personalized. And now you have playlists in Spotify with 1,000 titles. I use Spotify every day, but I'm so happy sometimes to just want to take the time, make a slow down, things, make a small playlist with just selected titles. You are more caring about things when you have only 60 or 90 minutes for things, so you have to select them really carefully. It's different.
I completely agree. You're preaching to the choir. I wonder if people are making mixtapes, if they're creating a playlist on Spotify and then going from their laptop to here and making a playlist or a mixtape for a friend off of their Spotify playlist. Do you think that's happening?
I hope so. This is the way I make my own mixtapes. But yes, I hope so. Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. What's the response been like now that this is out in the world? What are fans saying to you?
We have both people who are like so happy, to have a cassette player with pretty good quality. It's not as good as it used to be in the 80s, of course, but it's quite good. And we have so many people who are so thankful, say, okay, thanks again. You're making something pretty cool. Now I can listen to my old tapes again. This is so good. I went into the attic. I found a box, plenty of tapes, and I'm so happy to listen to this. And some of others were like, why are you bringing back cassettes? You're part of all this big crazy movement, which is made for a young Gen Z, really wealthy people, and we hate you so much for doing that. We were finally over tapes, and now you're bringing them back to us, and we hate you so much. So, of course, it's not like 50-50, but sometimes we have kind of people, but most of the people are happy to have something, a good device to listen to the tapes.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing about it, obviously, I have a cassette player in my living room, a bigger one, and it hooked up to my big system. But this is really cool for a lot of reasons. But I also love the beauty of it. Like, folks who are listening won't be able to see, but I mean, a lot of people are familiar with it. But this matte, it's all metal, as you say. It has these like boxy edges, like a Land Rover or something. It's matte black. I know that comes in multiple colors. Even the box that it came in was really elegant. It was it reminds me of the first iPod, when you would take the iPod out of the box and it had that shiny metal back to it. So tell me a little bit about the design part of things. I know we talked about the technical side of things, but why was it important for it to be metal, for it to have a really nice box that it comes with a little pencil to help you wind up your old tapes? Why was the design important?
Like I mentioned, there was these first range tapes, cassette players, and we wanted to propose something with a better impression of quality, and for that we had to use more aluminum because our reference was the TPSL2 of Sony, which was the first one. And the first place when I talked to Mathieu, I told him we have to do something which is made in metal, something heavy that people will, when they have it in their hands, they feel like it's heavy. This will give an impression of quality. So it was first place, it was the material. And after that, when we discussed with the designer, we told him, okay, so we want something which is both retro and more futuristic things. And he said, okay, so thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
And actually, he managed to do something because he was a big fan of Dieter Rams' designs, all his, which is actually the one who inspired Apple for all his designs.
Okay.
And yes, he worked for Braun for so many years.
Oh yes, Braun. Yeah.
And so he was it was his reference for this project. So he said, okay, he came with different designs, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. You know, this really bulky and square design with this circle window. I never seen something like this before, even with the people in the 80s. So we know it's not exactly what it could be. If we wanted to make something exactly like in the 80s, we could have done it. But there was something about it which was interesting, and we had this. We knew that many people would not use the device as much as it was in the 80s because there are smartphones, the laptops, and everything. They want to listen to music, so. It's more like vinyls and Polaroid. You know, you use them a few when you have the time, when you're alone in your living room. This is something really ceremonial, you know?
Yeah, good word.
Put a tape in it and you take the time of listening to it. And for sure, we are thinking, okay, but most of the time people will just take the cassette player and put it on a stair in the living room, and it has to be something with a really cool design. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So it was very, very important for us. This is why we took so many importance on this, and we took many times, many different tries to find the perfect thing.
Well, and I think that is important because we've talked about on this show how vinyl and cassettes, they aren't a necessity because, like you said, we have our laptops, we have our iPhones, or Spotify. So it is anytime we're using a turntable or we're using a cassette player, it's a ceremony. I love that you use that word. It's a ritual, and so I think it has to be an all around beautiful experience. And that's what I enjoy. I mean, I love how, because it's boxy, it can sit on its own like a component, or, it could stand on its own. It's really cool. It looks good too on people's bookshelves. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, but for the concerning I didn't answer for the part of the gift box, the packaging. And actually we knew that we are going to sell a product which was going to be pricey. Of course, this is not really that affordable. 149 euros is not for everyone. So we had to take care of every details for sure. Of course, we are not Apple, but we want to make the same application with our small budget and our small team. But we want to give the impression when people put money in it, it has to be, it has to be really well made. They have to get this impression since the first time they get the box in their hands and open it. And yes, we took many. Also, it was important for us, this part too.
I want to talk about the cassettes and the future of tapes and cassettes. We have a lot of record labels in our community who are tape labels and who are making tapes daily and selling lots of tapes. One of the reasons I feel like tapes have yet to reach the level of popularity that vinyl has reached incredible popularities. And I think the reason, my theory, I don't have any data, but my theory is because of the amount of turntables that are available. There's the turntables from the thrift shops that survived, but also Crosley turntables, and the ability to buy a small little Bluetooth turntable for $50 has made vinyl more accessible for people. And cassettes haven't had that because you either went to the thrift store and the used store and you bought one that didn't work, Or like you said, the old Sony Sport ones are now several $100s to get a vintage one. There wasn't that entry point. There are now a little bit, but I feel like having this and having more things like this will help more people buy cassettes. Do you think that's true?
Of course, yes, for sure. The more we are on this market, the more interest it will generate. That's sure. I have no doubt about that. Especially also the thing is that tapes are cheaper than vinyls, and we know that the cost of the vinyls is increasing terribly. Like you said, it's more and more popular. More and more people are buying them, and the cost is increasing more and more, and it's not that affordable. So for people who are just looking for a physical format, it could be a CD, a vinyl, a cassette, which are not, really specified about, okay, I need this vinyl. Sometimes they just want to have something physical from their favorite artist. So it's also a really good option. You can buy a tape for 10 euros, where a vinyl is about 30, 35 euros now. It's getting crazy. So I think it's also helping us a little. If this is still a niche, but it's people sometimes just say, okay, I have this other option. I could buy the vinyl for 35, but I can also have a physical format for 10 euros. It's a good option too.
Yeah. I want to talk about the next thing you're working on, but before I do, I know that online on Amazon, there's a plastic product for really cheap. And then there's your product. Do you see a future where there'll be more in between things? Do you think there'll be a $50 to $100, €100 option? Have you ever thought about making a cheaper model than this, a plastic version?
We thought about it in the first place, but one of my partners said, "You never ask to." It's a really good sentence, actually. He said, "You don't ask to Mercedes to build Twingos." It's like, it's like you're asking to Ferrari to build a really cheap
I see. Yes.
first cars. And so because I mentioned that in the first place, I told him maybe we should also think about making decent cassette players made of plastic for 60 and 80 euros. And he said, no, for now, we're specialized in making high-end cassette players. We cannot go in something which is
that's fair.
That's good. So I would like to do something for sure. Our next model, we will try maybe to get a cheaper price, because we will probably take off the record function of the device. So
I see.
If we have the possibility, we will try, of course, to reduce a little the cost for sure. I'm sure that if we could put some cassette players for maybe 129 or 119 euros, it would be a little more affordable, and I think it's doable. But we are in discussion with different manufacturers in China, of course, and this is really difficult right now, because we have to explain them that there is a big market. You have to help us to make new mechanisms, because there is only one available now. We are stuck with this one, and we have some limits. We cannot make it better and better. After one point, there is nothing else we could do about it. It's the maximum we could do with it.
What about your competition? Are you seeing other people get into this? Do you fear that maybe Sony or Philips will start to make a player, or Apple will make a player?
Of course, if Sonic comes back, we are dead. Of course. No, but the discussion we have are some manufacturer who used to work for Sony before. So what we are trying to do is to have the access to a really good mechanical that would help us to be competitive, even if Sony came back in the market. So this is of course scary, but for now we know that this is still a too small market for them. They are still not very interested in it. But I don't want them to come back again, of course.
Yeah.
And for the new incomers, there are some of our own vendors started to make their own cassette players made of plastic, and they found a manufacturer in China and said, okay, I'm going to put my name on it and this plastic cassette player. And there are more and more like this vendors who are making their own cassette players. So I don't think if it would be very interesting for us, to sell a 60 euros cassette players, because it's already, there are already some vendors who are making it right now.
Right.
And I don't think we could make it better than they do, because like I said, there is only one mechanical.
Sure, that's fair. We were supposed to talk last week. We had to move our appointment, and in that time, you announced something, or our mutual friend Corey had sent me something that you guys are working on a product, a different product. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course. We already introduced it in at the IFA in Berlin this year.
Okay.
And it's the GTO Blaster, which will also be a speaker. It's a project that we've been working on since more than a year and a half now. This is our biggest project, and we're almost in the production step now. We are already developing the molds. So this is a really costing project, but we invest a lot of money in it because we really believe there is something to do about this product.
And what are the specs of that product? Is it the same thing with like a rechargeable battery? Does it have Bluetooth, or is it just the speakers?
Yes, all the same. Rechargeable battery, Bluetooth system. The rechargeable battery will be changeable.
Okay.
In case the battery would die, because so many people were angry with us for not making the battery replaceable in our V001 cassette players.
Okay.
So we said, okay, now we do not make the same mistake again. Let's make it replaceable this time for this device. So there will be
cool.
rechargeable battery, Bluetooth, the Bluetooth system. An excellent real stereo, because there will be both woofers and tweeters.
Right.
So the stereo will be real stereo, not like the ones which are announced by JBL or Marshall or whatever.
Right.
It will be a real stereo sound, and also a karaoke mode, which will be so cool, I guess, for the Asian market. We are so keen in this kind of functionality. And what else? You can also plug. You can use it as an amplifier if you want to plug your guitar on it, a microphone, whatever.
That's
cool. You can use it as an amplifier. So yeah, the sound is going to be really, really, really good. We made some tests with competitors on the market, and we are at least at the same level or better. So we really believe that.
And what's the size of the unit?
It's pretty bulky. It's huge, and it's really heavy. Once again, we are not afraid of the fact that it's going to be, not so practical. But for this, especially this one, we really believe that the fact it's heavy and really well made with good materials, it's going to give this impression once again of quality. But it's about, I guess, in the last discussion I had, it was about 6 kilos, a little more than 6 kilos.
Okay.
So it's really big, and I cannot say, I can see my screen right now, but it's something like this. I don't know if you can see my arms. And the handle, which is also really heavy.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So are you doing multiple colors, like the same 3 colors as the first one?
For the first one, we will just launch one color for the first the first batch. Yeah. And after that, we will also, so it's going to be a black one. Yeah. Black matte. And after that, there will be also probably a gray one.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And after that, we will propose a different color, because for this time, it's not made of aluminum, because it would have been really, really, really heavy. It was not possible. So
sure.
Because we are making a mold, we can make it plastic and pick the colors we want for this one. So it's going to be a fun project, I guess. We can make so many designs, so many customizations.
That's awesome. Let me ask you about the sound, going back to your first machine, the 001. you had mentioned a little bit that the sound quality isn't as good as it was in the 80s. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And I want to know, did your research do music fans care? Or I should say, do tape fans, cassette fans, do they care about sound? The first record I listened to this on here was an old cassette from 1983. So it's not in great shape. The tape is not in great shape. So I'm starting with an inferior product. I'm curious if cassette fans even really care about the sound, aside from stereo, which is important.
We like for your previous question, it's once again it's split into, you have many people who really care about that and say there is no Dolby stereo in this device, and they are always asking no Dolby, no noise reduction, and nothing. I don't care. I would never buy this crap. And other people who are just like, are you crazy? The device is really good. The playback quality is absolutely great for a device, for what we could made of the mechanical existing. So it's really splits. Honestly, it's a 50-50, and this is why we want for our next product to reunite everyone and say, okay, now everyone is happy. We found a way to find the good quality. The ones who used to be happy with the first model, they will say, okay, this is even better. They will be even more happy. But for the other ones, it's going to be like, okay, finally we have something with which is competitive with what used to be made in the 80s.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think you're in a tough position. I sympathize with you because there's lots of different, especially in the hi-fi and the audiophile world, there are people all across the spectrum, and the same can be said in vinyl. With the type of players and stylists and speaker systems, and we know that there's a generation of people who listen to music through the speakers on their iPhone, through the bottom speaker of their iPhone. So there's people all across the spectrum. For me personally, I have multiple stereos and multiple different rooms to listen to music and ways to listen to music. For me, tapes is just a nostalgic, intimate experience. I'm not really judging the sound. I'm more, it's about the ritual, as you said, or the ceremony. So I like that. Do you know if, I'm asking you questions about your customer base that maybe you don't know, but are they using them? Do you know how often they're using vintage cassettes from the 80s or the 90s versus new releases from new record labels or from Taylor Swift?
You mean for the cassettes only?
Yeah, for the cassettes. Like, what are they listening to on this?
Honestly, I don't really know. That's a good question. I think there are both, but some of them also have really good cassette decks in their living room and still make mixtapes with old tapes. And actually, some manufacturers make really, really good quality blank tapes now. And so they are making really good recordings and expect to have a really, really high quality in terms of playback after that. So some of them are disappointed. Honestly, I don't have the number. It's pretty hard to say. But yeah, the fact is, it's like you said, in the hi-fi industry and every market, actually not especially industry, but in the market of hi-fi and people, you have the impression sometimes that you are surrounded by audio engineers. Everyone knows better than you do about how you should make it. What about the costs? What about the mechanical? We made nothing about it. We should have made this and this and this. You should do. And we are like, okay, we have an excellent engineer in our team, and we trust him so much. But yeah, we also have to struggle with this kind of people who are very, very difficult to convince and very exigeant. I don't know what is the word in English. It's very demanding. Something like this.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
You have really high expectations. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think that those people can ever be pleased. I don't think you can ever please those people. No matter what you add on, they always have a footnote, a little asterisk of this could be better, that you should do things this way.
I think you're right. Sometimes it makes me really sad. I have the feeling like I would, whatever I could do, you would always find something to criticize. So sometimes just, okay, I just shut off YouTube and the comments on Instagram. That's enough for today.
I think you should lean towards the people who are just excited about this product, because the problem is if you start to cater to the audiophiles too much, the price goes up, right? The more things you add. And so I would hope that you can make this more accessible. I want all of my friends to have one and everyone to buy one, but I know that it's an expensive product. Like, you know, when it comes to, I don't know what to compare it to, but I guess you could compare it to the AirPod Pros. They're $200. They're very similar in price. Like it's a luxury item. There's no question about that, but it's a really fun product. It's a fun luxury item, and I hope people get it. So if it were me, I would cater more to the people who are grateful that this exists.
Yeah. I'm glad that you feel this way, and I really hope that your friends and some other people who still find it too expensive will be happy with the next model. And I really hope that we will be able to lower down the price and to have something really more accessible with a really good finish and still the same atoms.
Well, let's leave it with that. Let me see if I can pronounce your name one more time, and then I'll let you go. Okay, ready? Here we go. Let me rehearse it in my head. Okay, now I forget how the CHE, if that's a Shay, but here we go.
It's Sh.
Romain Boudruche. Am I close? No?
It was like from the East Europe accent.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I was thinking of it too. I was thinking of it too much. I'm sorry.
It was excellent. No, it was perfect.
All of my Canadian listeners are going to be so embarrassed by me. I'm terrible.
Maybe.
We have in Canada, it's a lot of Canadian culture is franglais. You know,
Yep, of course. Yeah.
And I don't know if you have that too in parts of France, but where we just kind of use a word when we need to and switch back and forth from French to English. Yeah.
We don't have this in France, but I see what you mean.
You know
with Canada, it's just so funny to listen to them, as they are borrowing in every sentence you have an English word that they changed in some way. This is so great to listen to them.
Yeah. I've heard that people from France don't like Quebecois French. Like
they're French. It depends. Some people just find it so funny, like I do. This is almost like a joke, but in a good way. I really, really, really enjoy listening to them. And I don't know, people who sometimes just feel like you shouldn't speak French because this is not French. You know?
Right. Yeah. It's probably the same way between like the British and Americans.
Yes, I guess so. But we know that some Americans have some fun of the English with their accents. Some movies and stuff like say this word again. This is so exciting.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
It was great meeting you. It's a pleasure.